Good morning, this is your Stat Sensei, Mr. Spensei, and this is classwork 2.4, and we're doing part 2, and this is completely on outliers. Real quickly, there's going to be a couple formulas you need to know. You're going to need to know IQR is Q3 minus Q1. Third quartile minus the first quartile gives us our interquartile range. To determine if there's a low outlier, the minimum value, please note this says minimum, must be less than Q1 minus 1.5 IQR. Remember, this is our lower fence formula. To determine if there's outliers on the high side, our maximum, so notice we switched from min to max, must be greater than Q3 plus 1.5 IQR. And this is our upper fence formula. So if our minimum value is smaller than a lower fence, we have outliers on the low side. If our maximum is greater than our upper fence, then we have outliers on the high side. And we have to use IQR for all of this, Q3 minus Q1. So on the first problem, they give the number of typhoons reaching the west coast of the United States was recorded for each of the last 10 decades. Summary measures are shown below. So we have a minimum of 9, a lower quartile of 15, a maximum of 25, a median of 18, upper quartile of 19, and sample size of 10. Turns out to determine outliers, I don't even need these values. Those are extra. All right, but what I do care about are these 4 values. I need the lower quartile and the upper quartile to find the to determine whether or not the lower and upper determine IQR, and then I compare the min and max to determine whether or not we have outliers. Determine whether or not they're outliers using the IQR method. If there are outliers, determine if they're on the low side or high side or both sides. Justify your response by showing your work. So I need to calculate the IQR, which means I'm going to need that IQR formula. And we said the IQR formula is just Q3 minus Q1. So IQR is Q3 minus Q1. We know the upper quartile is 19, so 19 minus 15 gives us an IQR of 4. So now we need to determine whether or not we have, we need to calculate our lower fence. Our lower fence is Q1 minus 1.5 IQR. So in this case, Q1, 15 minus 1.5 times 4, and that gives us 9. So if we have a minimum value below 9, then we have a outlier. Well, we have a minimum value of 9. 9 is not below 9, so no outliers here. No outlier on the low side. So I'm going to write the word none. Then on the high side, we have to go to our upper fence, which is Q3 plus 1.5 IQR. Well, Q3 is 19. 19 plus 1.5 times 4 equals 25. So if we have a max value greater than 25, then we have outliers on the high side. Well, we have exactly the same value. Exactly the same value means we have no outliers on the high side. So in this case, we have none on the low side, none on the high side. That means we have no outliers in this data set. All right, so our answer to this first question is none on that one. All right, we have the same problem, but we have different data. Now we have a minimum of 13, a lower quartile of 16, an upper of 18, a max of 24, a median of 17, and a sample size of 10. Once again, to calculate outliers, we don't need that. So we need to calculate our IQR, which is going to be 18 minus 16. So we're going to have a IQR of 2. So let's calculate that and get that written down. And that's what we have right here. 18 minus 16. Upper quartile, Q3. Remember, this is Q3. And this is Q1. So Q3 minus Q1 gives me 2. Now we need to calculate our lower fence. Well, our lower fence begins with 16 minus 1.5 times 2. Well, 16 times 1 1.5 times 2 is 13. Once again, our minimum value is the same. So we have none on this side because we have to be smaller than 13. All right, we're not smaller than 13. We're exactly 13. But on the high side, we have to use this formula, which is quartile 3. Quartile 3 in our case was 18 plus 1.5 times 2, which is what we have here. Quartile 3, Q3, 18 plus 1.5 times 2 gives me 21. All right, if our maximum value is greater than 21, we have a outlier. So our max has to be greater. Well, is 24 greater than 21? And the answer is yes. All right, we have an outlier on the high side. And the reason we have an outlier on the high side is because 24, having trouble with these stickers, because outlier on the high side because 24 is greater than 21. All right. Okay, now we have all this different way of presenting the data, which is just designed to scare you, but don't be scared. You know how to do it. A random sample of golf scores gives the following summary statistics: our sample size, our average, our standard deviation. We don't need that for outliers or not using we don't need any of this to calculate outliers using the IQR method. We do need the minimum. We do need Q1. We don't need the median. We need Q3 and we need our max value. All right. So we have to calculate our IQR again, which is Q3 minus Q1. So 91 minus 78. And that's what we have right there, 91 minus 78. And we end up with an IQR of 13. Then we need to calculate our lower fence. Well, our lower fence is Q1, which is 78 minus 1.5 times 13. So 78 minus 1.5 times 13 gives me 58.5. Do I have any values below 58.5? And the answer is no. So none here because 68 is bigger than 58.5. So no outliers on the low side. All right, because my minimum has to be lower than my lower fence. Then I need to calculate my upper fence, which is Q3 plus 1.5 IQR. And then I have to ask myself, do I have a maximum value greater than that? All right, well, my maximum value, or my Q3, excuse me, is 91 plus 1.5 times the IQR of 13 gives me 110.5. Do I have any value greater than that? And the answer is yes, because 112 is definitely greater than 110.5. So in this case, we have an outlier on the high side because 112, my max, is greater than 110.5. All right, number 8, last one. Dietitians are concerned about sugar consumption in teenage diets. A 12-ounce can of soft drink typically has 10 teaspoons of sugar. In a random sample of 55 students, the number of teaspoons of sugar consumed for each student on a randomly selected day is tabulated. Summary statistics are noted below. All right, so the minimum is 10. We need that. Q1 is 25. We need that. Max is 60. We need that. Quartile 3, we need that. Median, mean, and sample size, those are important for other things, but we don't need them to calculate outliers, or at least not using the IQR method. So we don't need this to calculate outliers using the IQR method. We do need Q3 minus Q1. And so in this case, Q3 is 38. So 38 minus our Q1 of 25. So you have 38 minus 25 to give us a IQR of 13. All right, so 38 minus 25 is 13. Then we need to calculate our lower fence, which is Q1 minus 1.5 IQR. That IQR we just said was 13. So Q1 is 25. minus 1.5 times 13 is 5.5. Do we have any values lower than um, than 5.5? And the answer is no. 10 is greater, so no outliers on the low side. But on the high side, we have 38 plus 1.5 times 13, and we have 57.5, and our max is greater. So yes, we have an outlier on the high side. And the reason we have an outlier on the high side is because 60 is greater than 57.5. All right. Appreciate you watching and look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you.